welcome to another episode of the Revel Flow Podcast. I'm your host, Flo. This week, I have the privilege of talking with one of Scotland's most versatile runners ever. He's a 4-time UK national champion, 23-time Scottish champion, a 2008 Olympian, and he's still in the running space and is currently working at Adidas as a category manager for running footwear. And on top of all of that, he's probably most notably known for his sense of humor. I would like to welcome Andrew Lemoncello, also affectionately known as Lemon. Welcome.
Thank you, Flo. Yeah, I didn't know about the comedy part, but I'll do my best to hold my end up on that.
No, it was every time you've led like a session or a talk, I feel like everyone's cracking up for good, on purpose, not because we're laughing at you, right? Like you're telling some solid jokes for sure.
I don't mind people laughing at me. That's okay.
No, it's good. And I'm just excited to have you on here. And I wanted to have you on because you have a very impressive background and a lot of knowledge and insight to offer. And this podcast focuses on creative process in all aspects of life. And with what I know about you, I would assume you've had to be nimble and creative with how you've gone through different challenges in your life because you're a runner, professional, father. And I feel like with your job, you're living like 5 years in the future. A lot of the time you're trying to catch trends coming in. So mostly just want to pick your brain. So to kick it off, I'm going to start way back. I saw that you were born in Tokyo, Japan. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because your parents aren't Japanese, right? Nope. So how did that happen? Why was your family in Japan and how long were you there?
Yeah. So my mom and dad met over there. My dad's American from Texas and my mom's Scottish from St. Andrews, which I'm named after, the town where I pretty much grew up also. They were both teaching English to Japanese people. No real qualifications behind it. Just went over there, met within the program. I had my sister and she's 4 years older than me. And we both, I think we all absolutely loved it there. I just love that country. But because we were speaking Japanese outside of the house and English inside the house, it was a case of, I think my mom wanted us to be just speaking better English. I think in general is one of the impetus to move. So we ended up moving to Scotland when I was 5. My sister was 9. So I lost the language pretty quickly, unfortunately. But my sister's still very fluent and has put her in a really good position for work and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we were there. And I was lucky enough for a period in my running career where I was sponsored by Mizuno, the global side, based out of Japan. And it was in my contract that I had to go back to Japan every year and race. And I'm like, no, all right, okay, I'll do that.
That's awesome.
So I was going over once or twice a year. And that was just fantastic because I could just be back in the place where I feel so comfortable, with everyone being so polite and everything so clean and the food being amazing and just such a great society there. For me, anyway. Right. And I just had that opportunity and just thrived on it. So I can't wait to take the kids there at some point.
That's so cool. So every time you've gone back, you have personal connections still that you would go see, or it was just good to be back in the country?
Actually, no. We do still have our old neighbors and stuff. They're still there. My mom visits with them and talks with them regularly. I didn't. Usually I would like racing all over the country, so not near to the more southern part of Tokyo where I grew up. But just being able to go and see parts of the country that I didn't, or maybe I didn't remember from being as young as I was. So it just feels like a second home to me when I go there. And actually, weirdly, I went back for the first time in 2007. The world champs were in Osaka. And we went out to dinner one night with some of my teammates. And without even realizing, I just started ordering and speaking in Japanese. And I was like, oh, I do still know something. It just came out.
Whoa.
Having been dormant for however many years.
Yeah.
That was a really nice surprise because it meant I could get away with very basic Japanese day to day there. So that was really a cool experience.
It's crazy what sticks in your brain, that you don't even think about. Totally. I've been to the Narita airport in Japan, and I've never been outside of that. But if Japan's anything like the airport, their airport's nuts. It's incredible. I would go there. This sounds silly, but probably just for the airport, honestly.
There's a restaurant in there that I had some of the best sushi I've ever had. which I'm like, okay, good. I'll just fly to Narita and back just for that.
Right. 14 hours, no problem.
Yeah, worth it.
Or however long it was. But yeah, so you moved back to your mother's home in Scotland, and
Yeah.
now where you spent what age were you when you moved back?
So 5 years old.
5, that's right.
We moved to another town in another part of the county, I'll call it. And then a couple of years in, I think we moved to a small village just outside of St. Andrews, home of golf. That's where golf started, where I'm named after. And yeah, went to school there. Great place. I mean, we've been back to visit. I've been back a lot, just with running and stuff, but bringing the kids back and showing them kind of where I grew up. They're a bit young to appreciate it, but we're going back again this summer. So
cool.
It's really nice to get back there because it feels like it's a very quaint town, it's quiet, but it's busy during the summer for golf. And it's just really nice to kind of go back and go, this was home. And I don't think I'd ever move back. I don't think I'll ever move back to Scotland, but that's definitely a place I could move back to, just knowing how comfortable I feel there. So
Totally. I've moved a ton throughout my life as well. And like, I can't see myself moving back to any of those places either, but it feels like another, like a breath of fresh air going back
exactly
to where you were from. And so you were 5, and then I looked at your running career and you started young, like you were at the top of your game in your age category at what, 13, probably sooner.
Yeah.
That's just what Wikipedia said.
Yeah. I think I did my first race when I was 12. My mom just kind of threw me into some schools race. Turned out it was the Scottish Championship, and I came 8th or something. So I was pretty good from a start, and that really helped me to enjoy it from the start.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
I'm good. Yeah.
And the next race I did, the kid who won the Scottish Championship, I came and joined first with him in that next race. And I was like, oh, this could be something. Obviously, very, very young, not really thinking about it too much, just having fun.
Right.
And I would train twice a week with our club. And that was the highlight of my week. That was kind of where I went and just really enjoyed myself. I felt like I could just be me and go run hard. I just felt good, really enjoyed it. Our running club is very, very diverse in age groups, I'll say. So they've got, young training teams, older people, and it was really cool because I could train with the older people who were, a lot faster and stronger than me, but they would push me on from a young age. I think that's why I've always had friends who are older than me, just because I grew up with being around older people a lot. And, I really appreciate being around people who just have more experience and are better than you in a lot of things, because I can learn from those people. So yeah, that was really cool. And then the next year when I was 13, I won my first national championship, and it was kind of off and sailing from there.
Yeah, that's incredible. So your mother got you into running, or she, oh wow, was she a runner as well?
She had run, she'd done a couple of marathons, but not a runner per se. She'd just kind of done them. And then she really got into it too. So I think when I was 15, I was national, maybe it was 17, I was national champion, and she was national masters champion in cross country same year. Yeah. So, and now she still tries to run as much as she can, even with like having hip replacements and stuff. Like,
oh gosh.
She's in pain, but she just knows that running's part of her life, and that's what makes her feel good. So I can see myself being that way later on in life too.
Double knee replacement, hip replacement, still going.
So.
That's amazing. It's in your blood then.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Have you thought about getting your kids into it at all? Or are you thinking you'll kind of let them discover it?
Yeah, I kind of don't want to push them. I've seen it in so many parents, especially as being a coach, like people approaching me like, hey, could you coach my 10-year-old? I'm like, no, absolutely not. They can have fun right now. Like, let them enjoy, let them find everything. Very rare that kids being pushed that early find joy in doing it and be successful later on. But my daughter absolutely loves any kind of sport, just wants to be as active as possible. So she'll jump into fun runs and stuff. My son, totally opposite. He loves to dive into books and read all day. He does taekwondo, but that's about it on the activity side. So I think he'll actually get there. Just seeing my wife and I running so regularly. My wife was a collegiate athlete also. And so I think just the old term that more is caught than taught with kids, I think they'll probably start running just through watching us so much. I mean, they see us every morning. Like one of us is on the treadmill in the morning. So every morning they wake up and come through and get us off the treadmill. So
yeah, it's like they're normal. So it almost would seem weird if that wouldn't be something that
yeah,
for them, like,
yeah,
oh, mom and dad does that. So, oh,
yeah.
that's so cool. And so your wife, what was her sport or what was her event within running?
She cross country, 5K, 10K, very much longer distance stuff. So she went to NAU, Northern Arizona University up in Flagstaff, and that's where we met. Eventually, she was getting her doctorate, and I just moved there for training.
So from 13 on, so then you got a scholarship to college, FSU, Florida State University, right?
Yeah, actually, I got a degree in Scotland first,
Okay.
in the University of Stirling. The collegiate system there is very, very different. There really isn't a collegiate system. There's like 1 or 2 races a year. Everything's a club-based system in Scotland and Britain. And so I wanted to go to the States for a while, managed to finish my degree in 3 years, and then got the opportunity to go over to the States and managed to stay at Florida State for 3 years also and get another degree. So yeah, and it was the best thing I could have done for my running and my life, to be honest. It was a really great step forward.
Yeah. And I was reading all of your stats and things from FSU, and you shattered an all-time record by 15 seconds for the 3,000 steeplechase.
Still
That's
got it.
incredible. Really? Yes, that's incredible. Because it was, 29-year-old record. So you were probably younger than the record at that point.
Yeah.
And then just crushed it. 15 seconds is huge. Do you remember the time that it was?
When I broke that record, it was maybe 8:37 or something, but I took it down to 8:22 by the end. So, or maybe it was 8:23, the record now, which is, yeah, I mean, you qualify for when I did it, you would qualify for the Olympics with that time. So
Is that how you qualified for it?
no, it was a year after that, that I qualified. So that was 2007. I graduated and had a really good season, just went from strength to strength, and team was doing awesome. So just kind of being built around our full team. We won nationals, and just, across the board, from the sprinters, the distance runners, to the throwers and field events. It was just a really strong team that we all came together and really performed really well that season. So it was good to be in that environment.
Yeah, it sounds like morale was high, and so it's infectious.
Yeah. One thing I always talk to people when they ask me about it, because a lot of the time you can see there's a bit of disparity between the teams, like, oh, the sprinters don't hang out with the distance runners or the throwers and stuff like that, and they kind of stick to their groups. We all kind of lived very close. Like, I lived beside Walter Dix, who's the NCAA record holder in the 200 meters, double Olympic bronze medalist. Throwers were close by. And I really think that the reason why our team did so well, we won back-to-back national championships, was because we were just so cohesive. Like, I would be on the sidelines cheering for a shot putter, and then they'd be out on the track, shouting for me. And there was no real separation between the teams. And I really think that was where that bond and strength and unity came from. Was we could all perform well because we had such a team behind us, not just the coaches and staff and everything. It was everyone was there to help each other. And I think that just got us through those years so well, and just set the program up for success. And I think that still goes on now within the team. I think they've really held on to that, and allowed the team to really bond as a team versus these separate parts that you can see quite often in teams that aren't quite so successful.
Yeah, I think it's really valuable. On the outside, track can seem like a very individualized sport. In a lot of ways it is. But to your point, like, having that community base, you just go further together, even when it's just you in the lane, like knowing everyone's got your back. The shot putters got your back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's such a good team dynamic. Is that mentality something you've just continued with on every page?
Yeah, I think I'm very big on team and collaboration. I love collaborating with other people when it comes to projects or just getting through the day, to be honest. I like to keep things lighthearted, and that usually helps with a team environment. I think my manager also, Jody's the same way. And I think it works really well to just kind of keep people at ease and be able to work through things a lot more cohesively versus like being at each other. Like, no, I think this is the right way, like accept each other's opinions and like look for the right direction. I think that was probably the genesis of where my love for collaboration and teamwork came from. I think it comes naturally to me now. Maybe I didn't realize at the time that was the case when I was in college, but now it's just like I thrive on that. And But yeah, like you said, like I love when all of the specialists are in town or we're doing a training or something like that. I love getting on that because it's a big group of people and we can go back and forth, great questions, and can just work together to make sure that we're all set up for success.
You had a really positive outcome from, you got to see it work well, I should say, like the collaboration you had back then. And I think a lot of the times whenever there's something successful, we try to formalize it, but it's good that you had it in a very natural environment. And so it doesn't feel robotic. And to your point of keeping things lighthearted and everything, I think when people are at each other's throats, people actually tighten up, creativity goes down. But when people feel like, when you were during training week this past week, you were making people laugh and it was just, everyone was feeling relaxed and you could absorb more, you can open up that creativity a little bit more. So yeah, definitely a very important mindset to have on any team. And I wanted to ask about the race where you broke it by 15 seconds. Do you remember your mindset through, like, did you realize you were on, I mean, you probably did, the pace to beat it? Because sometimes I hear from people who run their best race, they feel almost not effortless, of course, but you're in that flow state. Do you remember what that was like for you?
Yeah, it definitely was flow state for sure. I knew I was going to break it. All the training had suggested. So the funny thing was, this is the first race. It was one of the first races of the season. One of my first races on the track for Florida State. I'd gone through a cross country season, but we went out to Mount Sac. I think that's where I broke it first. And it was kind of one of those races where you just like, when you know you're going to do something, or you know you're ready for it. Certainly this is the case for me. Like it was just, there wasn't any outs. It was going to happen. And so I knew the pace to hold on to. I was also racing other guys all around me. I can't remember what place. I was pretty high up, second or third, I think. I don't think I won. It was just one of those moments where I crossed the line and it was just like, great, of course I did that. Like that, I just ran 21 seconds faster than I ever have or something like that. And it was just like, oh, that was going to happen. In the first race of the season too. So what was really cool for me was that was a qualifying time for a big championship back home. So the Commonwealth Games, it's the second biggest sporting event outside of the Olympics, but not many people in America know about it because America's not involved in it. And I qualified for that event there and just went, wait, I just did that in the first race. Like, what does the season begin? What does the season hold for me? That's when I really had to believe, like, okay, the Olympics is just a few years away. And I'm taking that approach where I can believe that I can make it to the Olympics. I think by the end of the season, I got down to 8:30. So that was another 7 seconds off of that. And that was huge because that was just another barrier to get to. I got fourth at NCAAs, I think. And then I'm now in the right mindset to qualify for the Olympics. At that point was 2 years away, 3 years away, something like that. So to go another 8 seconds quicker didn't seem like a very big task at that point.
Yeah, your trajectory was already pointing that way. Yeah.
And I knew I could do the right things. Like I'd made such a big leap from how I was running in Scotland to the new system in the States. When you're in college, you're a D1 athlete, you basically have better training facilities and teams behind you than you are when you're a pro runner. You know, you have this full system, so much money backing you, You got these incredible facilities to coaches. You get to travel to the best races. And that's not for all college programs. I know that. But D1, Florida State, that does have a lot of money. That was my experience. And that was one of the reasons why I chose there. Like I knew I could be in that upper echelon of all the races I'd be in. So that was just really cool to be able to do that. And just having that belief now, like, okay, I've only been in this training system for 6 months, say something like that. And it's working really well. I just need to continue this and I should be able to improve year upon year. So a lot of my races were very successful there. There was very few times I had bad races when I was at Florida State.
It's great to have that support. And there's always someone making sure you're getting all your marks and making sure like your training is still on point. I've heard a lot of stories of athletes who have done really well in college. And like you said, when they become pro, it's like, it's them and maybe their coach. And what was that transition for you, like going from college to professional?
Totally fine, because I was used to it from back home. Right. That 3 years in college in the States was kind of like, whoa, like that's what could be the case. But going to working with a coach again. And then I did have a training group, which was great, very smooth transition. I did a lot before I went to the States. My coach in Scotland, he was of the mindset, like he didn't want to push me too early. He wanted to, like, his question to me was, do you want to be a great junior athlete or a great senior athlete? And it was like, senior athlete.
Yeah.
So he didn't push me super, super hard. And then when I was in college in Stirling, I was an hour away from him. So I was basically self-guiding through the training he was giving me. And then he gave me the freedom to experiment. Like, what happens if I train 3 times a day or do 5 hard workouts a week, things like that, to see what really worked for me. That, more than anything, not only set me up well as an athlete to know my body and what was good, what was bad, but it set me up even better for being a coach now, because I made all the mistakes. You know, I can spot the warning signs I see in my athletes who are either pushing too hard or not pushing hard enough. And that was really good time for me just to be a self-experimenter. Now I went into system at Florida State, way more regimented. You've got this full team that you kind of have to train with, which worked really well. But then I moved to Flagstaff into another team environment. It was an adidas sponsored team, but we all had different goals. So the first year, of course, I wanted to get to the Olympics in the steeplechase. And then I had guys who I was trained with who are marathoners or 10K runners. So we would cross over, but we still had our own goals. But it was, again, that was a team environment where I think the core group of the team who lasted for a long while really gelled well. There would be people coming in, but would tend to leave a season or 2 later just because they didn't have the right mindset. They didn't want to click with the team. In life in general, those people get found out, or they find out the situation that's just not working for them. And it self-evolves so that they can be successful on their own terms. So I was very happy going to a professional team like that, coming from Florida State, because it felt easy going up to high altitude, and then just being able to go, I'm a professional runner, and now I need to do everything right every day. Because if you're gonna become a professional runner, it's not like you suddenly win every race. You actually you lose way more races than you win. You get to be in the best races in the world, and I'm going to lose 95% of those races, you know, and so you have to learn to lose a lot. So if you don't like losing, do not become a professional athlete. It's not going to be for you. So
it's the big fish in a little pond, and then now you're one of the big fish with all the big fish, you know?
Yeah. And I'd say where I got to, I was probably a small to medium fish in a medium bowl. You know, I was good, but I wasn't a world beater. You know, I wasn't going to win the Olympics or anything like that at that time. So, and I knew that, I was very aware of that, but that wasn't anything deterring me from being the best, putting out the best effort or best results that I could, just get the most out of myself for the years that I do have to do this, because it was only going to be for a certain amount of time.
And the mentality of saying, I'm a professional runner. I am in no way on any close touching your level of even currently. But I remember there was a mentality shift where I wanted to get more in the running space in my local community and become better. And I just remember I was going through a hard workout, and then I said, okay, if I want to consider myself a runner, I've got to tell myself I am a runner. And okay, what do runners do in this moment? What do runners do in this moment? And it sounds like it was similar, like I'm a professional runner now, like you. So it was a good mind shift. And so you have to do what professional runners do. Yeah.
And that's how I talk to a lot of athletes that I coach. It's like, they're like, well, you know, you didn't go through this because you were like a really good athlete. It's like, no, stop right there. All runners go through exactly the same feelings, the same mental issues, the same physical problems. I just run at a faster pace. That's all it is. Like we go through all the same stuff. So here's the things we can do. So blah, 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 blah. And I'll explain how to kind of combat those things. And I think half the battle with coaching is the mental side. You know, the physical side, of course, you got to put that in, but the mental side is so huge. There's people that don't believe in themselves. There's people that believe in themselves too much. And you have to be like, okay, let's come down from there, because you're over exaggerating your abilities right now. I'm not saying you can't get there, but let's look at it longer term, because you're not going to make this step in one one training cycle. But most of the time, it's especially with the marathon, because that can be a very excruciating event if you don't get it right. The mental side comes into that so much, especially in those last 6 to 8 miles. You really have to be dialed in. So that's why I try to really dial that in with athletes and like, here are the tactics. Let's practice this in training. Let's make sure you're ready for that, because you don't want to get that surprise in the marathon where you go, oh, what's going on here? I feel like death. I'm going to slow down now. I'm going to drop out. There's my hotel. I'm going to stop. I'm going to go for a beer instead. This isn't worth it. Why did I do this? All those things that come in. You want to just quickly turn that into, okay, this is supposed to hurt. This is going to be a struggle because I'm doing the better. But, I'm running faster than I ever have. I've put in months of work and I'm going to achieve something really cool. So I think that becomes a big part of it, where I think mindset, you just have to believe in yourself and the abilities you have to be successful.
Yeah, having that realistic mentality. Some people are afraid of it. To your point, like some people are afraid that they're not close enough or better than it, but you don't get anywhere unless you know exactly where your feet are. And you'd mentioned when you became pro, you had the mindset where you have to get used to losing a lot. So what was that like for you? You were a very decorated athlete, and I know the way you talked about it, it seemed like you had a good mindset going in regardless, but still losing hurts a lot, with all the training. How did you navigate those moments to stay positive?
Yeah, it was okay, actually, because a lot of the times, when you're in big races, you're actually shooting for a time or a place. The big races, those, I might not be a minute or two close to the front. Like I'll be a minute or two behind. That's crazy. Like, oh my gosh, like you just go, wow, those guys are flying. But as long as you stay within like what your goal is, well, for me, so I should say, like that was, every race had a purpose. So some maybe like, I'm going to go there to run fast. Some maybe I'm going to go there to try win. Some, I'll be very honest, some were just for financial gains. Some races I could just go, I could probably win that race fairly easy and make a few $1,000, just from doing that. You can fit that into training. The money side of thing never really drove me. I was always the goal oriented, like what could I get the best out of myself? Whereas I know athletes who are very financially motivated, and there's no right or wrong answer, but that's what their driving point was. So I'd see some of the guys that I would train with, like they would only go to races that were, where there's money that they could win, versus me, I might go to a bigger race that might get more, I might get more out of it physically. I might have to really push myself to achieve something big. That's what I would aim for. But I think the losing side, all the way up through, since a kid, I knew how to lose. You would always see me, even if it was a bad race, and I was just like, how did I run so badly? Because those days happen. One of the things I always had was always a positive attitude afterwards. Like, what can I get from this? Like, I'll be the first person to cross the line, no matter how bad it was, and just be hugging and congratulating my racing partners, and then go back and kind of sit through and like, why was that? Why was that the case? Why did I perform badly? Was it jet lag? Was it I didn't eat right? Was it I'm just in the wrong part of the training cycle? All these little things that can come in to affect an outcome. That I was very diligent with that. One thing I did find out about myself usually was that if I had a bad race, I would typically come back with a very good race after that, because I hate that feeling of not performing to my best. Not necessarily the losing part. I don't like losing, but if I knew there wasn't really a chance I was winning, I just want to know that when I crossed that finish line, I did the absolute best I could on that day to get the most out of myself. So that was always the big part. How do I get that feeling back? So even if I had a major injury, there was an injury where I was out for 7-8 months, and just going from having to drop out of a marathon with a torn tendon, 8 months later, 8 months of cross training, and then coming back to try race. My first race back was I won. It was the Denver half marathon, and ran really strongly, broke the record up there, all simply because like I'd done so much during that 8 months to get that mindset back, to get my body in a position to perform well again. And that was a really good feeling. And you want to hold on to that feeling. It feels so good when you do that. And it doesn't matter if you're just starting your, running journey. I'm going to talk very specifically about running, but I know a lot of people get this in other areas. In running, like when you finish and you just like, oh, that was phenomenal. I felt great. That was just how I want. That flow state you talked about. It's such a good feeling. You want to capture that again. So that's typically what everyone's trying to push to try capture again, because it's such a good feeling. So it's down to the athlete and the coach to kind of figure that out and how do you get there. Some people are phenomenal at it. Some people will hit highs and low for a while and hit highs and low for a while. And you're trying to hit that high for as long as possible. And it's something I still chase now, not from running, but from other things. Just because I know when I get there, I'm just like, this is my space. I love this space.
You sound like you were in research and development your whole life, pretty much. Just R&D, challenging new ways of approaching different events, different races. Oh, and you went from mid-distance. Well, maybe, I don't know if it would be considered, if it's track, it's long distance, right? But then you started exploring marathons, half marathons. I didn't know you broke the Denver record. One of the, what was the marathon called again?
It was the Rock and Roll Denver Half Marathon.
Oh, wow. That's probably some crazy elevation. Isn't it the Mile High City?
It is. I was actually going down in elevation. So Flagstaff, I think, is about 1,500 feet higher. So I was coming down, and so it felt great. It felt very tough because there were some hills in there, but it wasn't quite as tough as what it would be in Flagstaff.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It was set me up well.
Wow. Yeah, that's the perfect training ground. It sounds like that higher elevation. And so I did see you when you transitioned to the marathon, your debut marathon in London. You got 8th place, which is nuts. How was that transition going to those longer distances? I mean, probably seamless. You had strategy already, but what changed?
Yeah, it was something I knew I was going to end up there even when I was at the Olympics. So the steeplechase for 3,000 meters, like that's less than 2 miles. And I'm going, I'm moving to the marathon now. And that literally was my thought process after the Olympics. I finished that and went, no, I'm moving up. So it took a year to transition and move up to longer distances, 10K, half marathon, road racing. And then the year after that, do the marathon. I actually wanted a lot more from that first marathon. I was very, very fit. My training partner, I had just paced him to I think at the time was the fastest debut ever for a US athlete. Wow. Greg Gocher, he ran like 2:10. And I knew I was just as fit as that. I'm very strong over the longer distances. This is certainly not an excuse because the race is down to me, but the race ended up being after 8 miles. I was on my own from that point to the finish. I was supposed to have a pacemaker through 20 miles and he was struggling after 3 or 4, kind of going fast, going slow. And I'm like trying to amp him up, like, you're doing amazing. Like, thanks, man. This is really great. Thank you for being here with me. Trying to keep him going. And then after 8 miles, I'm like, nope, I can't do this. I'm going to go. And so I had this nice 18-mile stretch to the finish where I was on my own. London can be a bit of a lonely course too. There's there's thousands of people out on the course, but there's a certain section of it where it gets called the Isle of Dogs, where you're just doing these loops. I had no idea what direction I was running in. There's no one out there. Once you head back into the city, you start hearing people, and that really brought me back up. But one of the things in London is the race hotel is at mile 13 and 21. You pass it again. Right when it's getting really tough, like 21 miles, we're going, oh, this is really tough. And I remember Greg, my coach, saying, at that point, you're really going to have to care about what you're doing to get to the finish, because you're going to see that hotel and you're going to go, I could just step off right here. Luckily, I knew what position I was in and I was doing well. And I did see one guy like with 800 meters to go who'd kind of blown up and I'd pass him. But that was a really cool feeling, being able to run strongly, finish, won the British Championship there. And then, kind of like, oh, this is great. I'm going to keep doing this. This paid off well. All those months of hard work really, really worked well for me, and I enjoyed it. So again, kept just trying to get that same feeling again in the marathon, which I didn't really quite do again, but it never stopped me from trying to achieve that. 1 to 2 years before that sounds short to me to transition to those distances, but I guess you already had that discipline. Yeah, I was a higher mileage athlete already. I really thrived on that. I really knew where the mileage, where I could hit and keep my quality high of training, because you can go over that, do too much mileage and everything just suffers, or do too little and you don't become strong enough. So I knew that where that range was, and it really set me up well for marathon training. I just kind of took to it. In fact, I was a lot better trainer than I was a racer in the marathon. I can't say that for other distances, but some of the workouts I did phenomenal and didn't translate to good races. And again, big learning points from that, like, was I doing too much in training? Again, taking that as a coach and going, am I pushing people too hard? Am I not pushing them hard enough? Let's find that balance. Because you can see that very quickly. You have to adapt. That's why it was an easy transition from track to marathon for me.
still impressive either way. But, and then now you're coaching, even still, you've been coaching for a long time.
Yeah, since 2010.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
A decade and a half almost.
14 years, geez.
And so, and I'm sure that experience, like you're going through research and development for yourself. And then, like you've been saying, just catering to each individual athlete, and everyone's completely different in ways and very the same in others. But what was your process to speak to the individual? Because there are things that do work for the general population, and maybe it does come down to just training the mentality, like you mentioned, but did you have a certain process of getting to know the individual to make sure you had what they needed?
Yeah, it's very individualized, the training. Like one person's training, there may be two athletes, they run exactly the same time, and we got there with completely different approaches. That's why, like in college, I studied physiology, psychology, in a sports background. I read so many books about athletes, about training philosophies, the scientific books around training, just dug into those, just trying to understand the full wealth of knowledge that's out there. And that's why I think it was an easier transition to go into coaching, because I understood a lot of the background. Just reading that doesn't make you a good coach, though. There's the art and the science behind it, and the art comes after you've gone through it for a little while. But for me, though, with the getting to know athletes, like I really do want to know them first. Always, if I start coaching someone, let's get on a call for a while. Let's talk, because I want to understand what drives you, where you've been in the past, what you've done, what mistakes you've made, what you've thrived on, what motivates you, what levels of stress do you have in life? Do you have family and work and all these things that will affect what you can do on a day-to-day basis, and then gear the training around that. For some reason, I don't have the best memory, but when it comes to athletes, I can remember there are situations, and when I'm going to write a training program, I find it very easy to kind of go in and dial in the training. It really sticks with me. So it's one of those things, like, I don't know, financial numbers here at Adidas, they'll come in and I can hold on to them for a bit, but I tend to lose them. But when it comes to athletes, like I could pull out someone that I started coaching 12 years ago, and I could tell you, what they did, what their background is, all that stuff. So I think it's just because it's something I think I've done for so long. So yeah, everyone's individual, and taking different approaches to how they can succeed. They're all different types of athletes. You can gear training to help them be successful, and you can gear training to help them not be successful too. So you have to really be careful. There's a fine line where someone may have too much fatigue that they're holding for a long while, and you need to recognize those things. So I think being very nimble with the training too, being like, don't be afraid to tell me things. Like if you're feeling tired or sore, tell me right away, because I want to understand why, and if that's the case, I might say, you're supposed to be tired today, by the way, I want you to be tired during these next 2 weeks. Or it might be, oh no, you should be pretty fresh right now. Let's adapt. So on that front, I tried to make athletes feel as comfortable as possible to be able to tell me, whatever they want. I mean, one of my athletes who's very good, she's a masters athlete in the UK, national champion, record holder. When we talk about her period, like when that comes through in the training, like how do I need to adapt, like looking out for hormonal regulation, let's focus on sleep for the next few weeks, or, let's look at your diet, like what do we need to do? Because those are all things that can help them achieve the goal that they want. This isn't about me, this is about them. So how can I support to be the best athlete you can be? So if they can be comfortable telling me a lot, it really helps me to be a better coach for them. So that's kind of why I try to make them as comfortable as possible to tell me their situation, how they're feeling. As
a coach, you do wear a lot of hats. Sometimes you're a counselor, sometimes you're a scientist, sometimes you're an encourager, cheerleader, and you've developed, it feels like a language. It's the same principle of like figuring out. I loved when you said first comes the science, then comes the art. Like you develop the foundation first, and then once the house is built, then you can put paint on the walls and make it look really nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a good metaphor. Science first, then art for everything. You can attach that to anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so you enjoyed being a coach, and obviously have had really good people come out of that as well. And not to transition too much of a hard left or anything, but going from athlete and coach as well to what you're doing now within the brand and with Adidas. Well, how did you you were a sponsored athlete first? Was that your foot in the door essentially?
Yeah. So I had a good relationship with the brand already and the people here. Funnily enough, the guy who hired me was someone I grew up racing in Scotland. And funnily enough, there's a lot of people here I know in the brand here or in Germany who are from Scotland, and we just have a connection. Just like if you met someone from America when you're in Thailand or something, like you have a kind of instant connection. There was an opportunity. I'd been offered positions in the past, knowing that I had this love of product. Being an athlete, you've got to know your product, your shoes, what works for you. And I really dug into that. I used to create my own shoes back home. I'd send pictures to some of the guys and they're like, geez, like, what are you doing? Like, you're disassembling shoes and rebuilding them and then painting them and stuff like that. And I think that kind of got them like, oh, you've got that creative aspect to go into, and you might fit really well here. So eventually timing was right. I had a couple offers to come over and I just couldn't take them to move up here to Portland. And I got a contract role where we just kind of decided to make the leap up here, 6-month role, move the whole family up here. My wife was on board. The kids didn't get a say because they were too young. Moved up here and luckily managed to convert the contract role into a full-time position. Yeah, I've loved it. I mean, I love the product side of it. You can probably see that when I present product, like I love it. I really do. And I'd love to do more product side of it. That's an element of what we do in category management and really more merchandising, but that's where I want to end up. Unfortunately with Adidas, the creative teams are over in Germany. So it'd have to be a move to Germany, but my wife's in her dream job here. So we're not going to leave here anytime soon. So that's kind of how the transition was. It was definitely difficult coming into a corporate environment for the very first time. Honestly, hitting Excel for the first time and like doing a pivot table and just going, what is this? It seems brilliant. I know nothing about it. Like it could save me a lot of time. And just like all the acronyms and all the stuff you go through, corporate side that everyone goes through. I've not been in in a working position, like in a job for 10 years. So there was a bit of a transition, but I think once I got into this role, I've been in it long enough now, it feels like kind of in that flow state you're talking about, like we know the patterns of the season. Right now we're in like the busiest part. And then it will tail off a little bit and we can kind of dig into some more of the trends and see what's coming and give feedback to the global teams. But I was just very lucky. I had contacts here who were interested in what I could bring to the table, got hired, and then managed to stay here. So I was lucky, very lucky.
Well, I feel like more than luck. You know, you definitely brought talent along with it. And it almost seems like your whole life was kind of building. I mean, there's still more to come through, of course, but it was building up to where you are now. Like you were already researching, like reading all of those books and already in the mind of the athlete. So you just had that leg up, you know, it just feels like a natural move.
Yeah, there's definitely an athlete mindset that goes along with everything we do. Like I don't do things by halves. Like if I get interested in something or really want to get into it, I get into it. Like I don't mess around. There's stuff that'll come. I'm like, oh, let me try this. And I'll quickly understand whether that's for me. But since I stopped running, like the music side for me, like I DJ now and I love it. Like that's my creative space now. Like that's where I love to, if I need time away, like I can instantly escape everything. Like my mind just switches off and goes to what I'm doing on the decks, you know? And so I've always done things like do it the right way to the max. Not to the max maybe isn't the right word, but really do it capture the full spectrum of everything to be as good as possible. How can I continue to evolve in this space to be, I don't know, I find enjoyment from being better and better at something. So that's just the kind of mindset I have when I really apply myself to something.
Yeah. And there's a lot of parallels with, like you were just saying, like with sport and with practice. And it sounds like excellence versus perfection. Excellence is high level, like putting a lot of effort into it and making it really sing. And I didn't know you DJ'd. Let's talk about that. That's so cool. How did you get into doing that?
So I've loved in the States called EDM, but back home it's like just dance music, house music. I've loved that since I was a kid. Like that's what plays on the radio, you know, when I was 15, 16, just like, oh, this just hits something different to me. Now, when I was a runner, of course, I listened to it all, but I was very focused on running. Like that was my passion. That was what I wanted to do. I didn't go to festivals or concerts or anything. You know, I wanted to get good sleep at night. You know, I wasn't really drinking, anything like that. So now that I'd finished running, it's kind of I found very quickly that I could just really enjoy myself in this kind of scene and DJing. I've been playing around with some DJ software and stuff and got some very rudimentary decks and started mixing stuff. I grew up playing piano and violin, so I have a bit of a musical ear, and just being able to make mixes for friends and stuff and then playing parties, like it just gets me going. And like if I go to a club now, it's funny because I'm very different to my friends. Like a lot of them are there to like mingle and go around. I'm like listening to transitions, like I'm there dancing. And again, that's a space where I can completely block everything out. It's not like to get away from work stress or family or anything that's going on like that. It's like, it's just to get away from everything and clear my brain and just be in that space where I can feel really, really great and just be at one with myself. Like I was saying, I can do that. If I've got a 20-minute break, I might just switch on the decks and just play around on there for a little while and just go, whoa, all stress is gone. Like I'll go back to the computer after that and go, okay, back to it,
Yeah.
So
it's good to have those outlets too. And, it might seem, I've said something like this before in like a previous episode where things that don't seem specifically tied to your job or to running or anything like that, it's still productive for that. I mean, we don't always want to be like, oh, I'm doing this craft so I can be more productive here. Like you should still have it in its own silo of like, this is just for enjoyment because I feel alive when I do this because it's so important. And now, I mean, being in America, I don't know what Scotland's like, but the go, produce, like kind of mentality. And so like people are always trying to find life hacks. Like, how can I get better? How can I get better? But it's good to just have things that are just good because you're here.
Yeah.
It's healthy.
Yeah, and it's so important to, I think, recognize that too. I think a lot of people can just get really stuck in their ways. If once you do recognize you have those things, like, and it could be taking a 2-minute breathing break, as simple as that. Or for me, if it's not being on the decks, it might be that I've got a really cool trail near the house, and there's this thing in Japan called forest bathing. You just go into nature and like walk there. I know for me that just that gets my body into great state and feeling good. It's like being around water and the negative ions that you can get from that and how good people can feel. It's kind of like that. And I get the same, like being by the ocean too. So knowing those things, it's like, oh, tap into those when you can, because they'll set you up for success.
You're in the perfect spot too, being in Oregon. You have all of that, all of that stuff. I definitely experienced it when I was in Portland last week. I was at the ocean in the trees and the mountains, driving through a snowstorm, even like,
right.
I felt it, it's so important. Yeah. It's good to have those elements too thrown in. And oh wait, I do want to ask, are you on Spotify? Are your mixes on anywhere to stream?
On SoundCloud they are.
Do you want the public to know?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
What is it just through your name?
Well, DJ name is Saint Lemon, so Saint from St. Andrews, and then Lemon because everyone just calls him Lemon. So
yes,
Lemon, yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
Saint Lemon on SoundCloud,
yeah, that'll be my next running. I'm gonna do a 10K after this, so I'm gonna hop on some Saint Lemon.
Yeah, sure. Lots of different styles in there. So
good. I like a lot of different genres, so that's perfect. So you're doing DJ. You're still running, just it's not in the same level because you're running Boston, right?
Yeah.
So you're still going out there.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, running's always going to be a big part of my life. That's whether it's good or bad. That's what I'm recognized as, the runner. It is such a big part of my life. Before that was my identity, where I'm Andrew Lemoncello, a runner first. That's life was centered around running. And now running comes into my life, whereas I'm still doing that quite regularly. But having fun with tapping into different areas, like doing strength training or trying out CrossFit right now and seeing how because I'm not good at it and I love being behind everyone. Like, okay, some of the workouts I'm going to crush because it's that type of endurance or stamina you might need that you have it as an athlete, runner. Like when we're lifting heavy, I'm so far behind everyone and I'm just like, ooh, this is getting me going because I don't like being in this position. And I know, 6 months from now, I'm going to be such a step forward from where I am now. So constantly trying to improve and be better and better. I really like that challenge because in running, I've kind of got to that top level and it can feel very easy going back to that. Whereas I prefer the challenge of something I'm not good at right now. So yeah, kind of diving into those things.
the competitor never leaves you, you know?
No, it does
it's always
not.
there.
I've been able to tame it, which
Good.
has been a tough transition. I mean, I get points where externally, I don't ever really show rage or anger or anything. Internally, there would just be this ball of fire, like burning if I got beat in table tennis or something, just anything.
Mario Kart.
And now it's very much like, it's like I'm still very competitive. I can turn it on, but also ensuring I can turn it off so I'm not being an asshole to anyone.
Right. Yeah. And it's good that your wife is also she was competitive as well. She probably talks you down sometimes, like maybe not this space.
Yeah. Or it might just be the simple touch on the hand or something like
Like she feels it. She's like, okay, not today. No, that's so good. CrossFit's very humbling. I've done those workouts too. And I thought I was fit and then I am not in that space, but it's so good. Before we wrap everything up, is there any piece of advice or inspiring thought, challenge that you would like to give the listeners?
Yeah, I guess, try to enjoy what you're doing. I think one of the biggest things for me years ago was just turning objects in my way or things that were getting me down or things that were just stressful and being able to see like how enjoyable things can still be or just looking at the bright side of life. That sounds so easy and simple, but it has changed my life hugely. I remember reading the book, Man's Search for Meaning, and just going, wow, I've got so much to be thankful for and just have that gratitude. It's funny, I was talking to my dad about this and it's like, I am not, like if I died tomorrow, I'd be like, I've had an awesome life. Like that's phenomenal. I couldn't have asked for more. And just kind of having that gratitude has made my life so much easier to get through, just because when it's even the toughest of times, just going, I've still been able to do a lot. I have a great family that I wake up to every day and get smiles from. And I have a great job. I have a great health, all this stuff. But sometimes that can easily be forgotten about when you're going through the doldrums of, stress. So I think trying to get enjoyment out of everything you're doing is really, really helpful. Like even nowadays, if I'm going for a run, like I'm going to run Boston Marathon this year, I know it's going to get pretty tough, but I'm going to look at those parts and go, this is really fun, but this is tough. I'm going to look really stupid because I'm going to have this big grin on my face and going, this is awful. Like this is just running on the street, but just getting enjoyment, just going like, I've 2 legs and I get to run in the Boston Marathon, go from start to finish. There's thousands of people out here cheering and why not enjoy it? So I don't know if you can get anything out of that, but that's kind of the perspective I've taken to get through life. And I think that was probably in the last 5-6 years, I really started to absorb that. And it's really changed my life for the better. That's really good advice, the perspective piece. And for like my brain, how it translates, it's like, don't stay so rigid, like stay open with gratitude, because the rigidity is where you get things, if you're really tense, that's when muscles snap and things, but being able to stay light in that way. It's good. And you always get through those stressful periods, right? Like you're in it at that moment and go, oh, like this is awful. I've got these deadlines. But like afterwards, you can look back and go, I got through it. Like I'll always get it done. Like that's never an issue. Like I'm never not going to get a deadline or whatever, may get through something. But looking back, like, yeah, that was tough, but I got it done. So kind of looking at that process, I go, okay, I'm not going to really stress about it as much because I know I just need to focus and, align my priorities here and get it done. So that's just one of the ways I look at it. Like I've said with other parts of my life, like look back on things so you can learn from it. Be successful from your own mistakes. Yeah. Being familiar with your history, it builds you trust, like you were saying. Yeah. Like you've done it before. It might have been a different scenario, but the principles are the same. You can do it again. Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you for being on here, taking a whole hour out of your day and chatting with me and lots of fun stuff. Well, thanks, Lemon. Always a pleasure. Of course. All right. Bye.